Ladies and gentlemen, this is Under Review, the most controversial show in the Major Arena Soccer League. My name is Phil Ivanko. That is the head of officials for the MASL, Ryan Sigich. We take the most controversial plays in the league, and Ryan gives his opinion. But Ryan, got a lot of plays this week. I think you've outsourced some help here.
I needed backup too.
Rich Grady joins us. So, Rich, Ryan wanted me to call you the sheriff. So, if you're the sheriff, what does that make Ryan?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he's the governor. I don't know.
Rich, we're going to put the governor on the hot seat for his first game back on the field this season. Tempers flare between Chihuahua and San Diego because they always flare between San Diego and Chihuahua. We've got Diego Reynoso on the ground. We've got Hugo Puentes losing his mind at the corner of the screen. In the end, we've got a double blue card for pushing. Rich, why don't you take us through this one?
Yeah, Phil, I think in this one, it's always a management challenge when you have a score that's a little bit lopsided, especially between two teams that are really heated rivals. And at this point, it's about keeping control of the game. And as you mentioned, you got a little bit of chaos going on. You got a goalkeeper down. You got everybody asking for something. And I think a blue each is an appropriate call here. It's intended to settle things down. I think in different games, you might have a different management approach, but in this game, I think that was the right approach.
Rich, there's no way Ryan had a clean game for his first one back. I've got one more play I want you to see. We've got a double red now, one on Tavoy Morgan, one on Arturo Valle. Did he get the call right on this one?
I think everything has to be understood in context, right? And the context to this is we just discussed the last play where we had a blue to each team. And ideally you do that to try and settle people down. And the fact that we have this next thing that happens here indicates that they didn't settle down. Pretty significant push. He sees an arm swing. So then the question is, we got to sort out who did what to whom there. I think 2 reds is an acceptable decision given everything that was going on, right? I think if you take both plays in a vacuum, maybe you look at it and say, well, this isn't really a red, or maybe this guy could get a red and this guy doesn't. I think for purposes of keeping the game under control, I think 2 reds is understandable here.
The most controversial play from the weekend, at least in my opinion, is this shootout in Kansas City. Lucas Sousa versus Willie B. Sousa misses his first attempt on goal, gathers and scores on the rebound, and you get 5 seconds on these plays, and Milwaukee is not happy. They thought the play was over. And Ryan, I understand why Milwaukee is a little upset on this one. It's a difficult play for the referee. So why don't you take us through this sequence?
Okay, Phil. So we got to break this one down just a little bit. And what everyone may not be clear on is that in this scenario of a shootout, that rebounds off the boards and off the goalkeeper are permitted. So the attacker can take multiple attempts at goal. And most importantly on this one, is that the ball needs to be shot or off the kicker's foot in 5 seconds. It does not need to enter the goal prior to the expiration of the 5 seconds like it does during the normal course of play. So what the process is here is that a referee will blow the whistle and simultaneously start their stopwatch, and then at the expiration of the 5 seconds, they will blow the whistle again. And then the decision-making process here is that for the 2 referees that are monitoring the play, is that we must listen for the whistle at the expiration and at the same time make the judgment of whether or not the ball is off the kicker's foot. So that's no difference in judging whether or not the ball has crossed the goal line prior to the buzzer. But this one is so close, and I think unless we have a video and a clock on it, it's going to be impossible to be exact.
Yeah, I agree with Ryan. I think that the timing problem here is that whoever is blowing the whistle, you have a delay while they blow the whistle, they hit the button, then they hit the button and blow the whistle again at the end. I think the only practical solution to it might be something like we had in the beginning of Major League Soccer, where we had the shootout clocks. Now, those are expensive investments, but it was simply press a button and the clock goes, and when it hits 0, there's a buzzer and there's no second whistle or anything needed. So that might be the only way, a shot clock type thing. But again, that's a significant investment. You got to make sure the technology is working.
Same game, we've got a 2-footed tackle from Nacho Flores in this contest. There are always contentious plays because you're judging severity of the tackle, not really intent. Am I right, Ryan? What's your preferred decision here?
That's correct, Phil. This is a 2-footed tackle by Nacho, which should never be permitted in soccer. But the question is, why is this called as a foul only when, historically we've been pretty strict on enforcement of this type of tackle? So in this case, I see Nacho completely making contact with the ball. I don't see any contact with the opponent. And, our rule states that in a reckless manner, the definition of reckless is, danger to the opponent. So this is not reckless since there's no contact. It is a foul, which is what was called, but not a blue card offense.
Rich, I've got another one for you here. 10 seconds left in the game between St. Louis Ambush and Baltimore Blast. In my opinion, this is a handball on Lucas Almeida. We've got an arm in an unnatural position blocking the play. The question here is, should this be a blue card? What's your opinion?
Well, Phil, I agree with your analysis. I think it's definitely a handball. The arm is extended from the body. He's making himself bigger, and he blocks a shot. Normally, blocking a shot is something that you're going to see people asking for a potential blue card on. I think in this case, given the distance involved, it's out by the yellow line and it's over near the boards. I think it's a harder sell for me personally to say that's 100% blue. I could understand if it were given, but I guess my gut reaction is it's not a blue because of the distance involved from goal.
Got another handball play for you. Same game, Riley Urey. This play leads to a goal for the Ambush, but it gets challenged. Now, I can say here, I don't think the angles really prove that this is a handball. But Rich, if you tell me this is a handball, I've got no defense. So what do you think?
For me, I don't think this is conclusive enough to change the decision on the field, whatever that decision is. If they called it a handball, I don't think you can overrule it. If you didn't call it a handball, I don't think you could change that either. It's not conclusive for me.
Rich, I've got one more for you from this game. Looks like we've got a tussle here between the Blast and the Ambush. Got a couple blue cards out on this one. What's your decision on this play?
Well, I think we have a couple of things going on here. I think the initial tackle by the St. Louis player could have been a foul for a 2-footed challenge. And then following the shot, there is a late arriving St. Louis player who delivers a bump. That could have been a foul called. I think because neither one of those were called, you see some frustration from the Baltimore player who turns around and lands a pretty significant kick on the St. Louis player. The blue card there is technically not wrong. It's a blue card worthy offense, but I think the two plays before, if we had gotten one of those, maybe the blue card doesn't happen.
Ryan, I've got two plays for you from this Utica-Harrisburg Heat game. Hugo Silva is screaming at his defender that he cannot play the ball, but ends up playing it anyway with no whistle. What's going on here, Ryan?
Well, referees, we get told all the time, we got to know the rules. So, the players do too. This rule's been in effect for 3 or 4 years now. It's released by foot. That's the key. This one was released originally by Hugo from his head. So he is entitled in this scenario to play the ball again.
And one more out there from this game for the refereeing hipsters. The Harrisburg Heat player stands over the restart and then touches the ball again. I know you put this one in here for education, so I cede the floor to you.
Well, we don't see this one often, but yes, from a restart, the kicker must not touch the ball again until it has been touched by another player. And what happens here, we have a free kick from the free kick mark. The ball comes off the boards. So the kicker in this case is not able to touch the ball until it has been touched by another player. If they do, as you see here, then it's a free kick from the spot on the field where the kicker touches the ball for a second time.
That's it for this episode of Under Review. Rich, thanks so much for joining us. Ryan doesn't need help? Maybe we should give you the show.
Well, I don't know. This might be the longest show of the season, Phil, and maybe that's because Ryan was back reffing this weekend. Maybe it's not a coincidence.
Oh, I like that.